Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. The hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time merely an abstract.
Here with Antti Puri, who's just climbed out of his car here. Antti, a long time ago since we saw you dominating Formula Ford in Britain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a few years.
There's a lot has happened since then.
How much have you driven this car?
It is. Now we are moved from formulas to touring cars.
Are you enjoying it?
For sure.
And what's your plan for this season? You're going to be doing the...
We're going to be doing selected rounds of endurance, but main race will be German TCR.
And that's a series, isn't it? German TCR is very competitive.
It is. That's why we want to be there.
He's got a wonderful beard these days, as Antti Puri. Thanks very much, Antti.
Vincent Rademacher, the 888 Audi in the TCR class, going very well. You just handed it over. Who's driving now?
Netis, the Letton guys. Since we put the car on the track in the beginning, the car was already good right in the beginning, and we just fine-tuned the car each time we go out, and we find always a little bit in the car. So it's really good setup at the moment, and I know this track very well because it's my night time here in the 24 hours. So yeah, it's going well for sure.
And you know this car relatively well because I understand you raced it last year.
Yeah, we raced first time with this guy in 24 hours in Barcelona, and this year category I drove also in 2016 with the Golf in the Belgium Championship. So I know that kind of car. I know it very well.
Good. That's why you look so relaxed. Thank you very much, Vincent.
Thank you.
Paul, news of more times disallowed and good times as well.
This is actually not new news. This is old news because we did quickly say that there were times disallowed. What I wasn't able to do at that moment was to say what the times were, but effectively they were the two fastest times of the session thus far. The 2:78 James May time we already told you about. The other one was by 2:32, another of the Ginettas, and it was Charlie Hollings at the wheel. He overstepped the mark. 2 minutes 9.418. Was his time. Since then, however, Charlie Hollings has taken the optimum Ginetta out again and has gone quicker yet again, John.
2:09.333. Now in second place, though, Reiners Nitzis. Stand back from the circuit a little bit here, Johnny, because this man likes to be off the circuit as much as he does on.
I think it was, that's the Vincent Rademacher time in the 888 car.
Right. But
so, yes, it is, but that car has now changed from Vincent to Reiners Nitzis.
Reiners Nitzis has an interesting background, Johnny.
Well, yeah, youngest ever winner in the FIA World Rallycross Championship, and that's where he plies his trade, in fact. Rallycross racing, a category invented for television in the UK in the 1980s, I think. And
earlier than that.
Was it 70s?
I think it was earlier than that, wasn't it? It was 68.
Really?
But, yeah.
So
60s, I think it might have been 66 or 67.
And it was on TV in the 60s?
Maybe.
Okay, no, they didn't have TV that early.
Not where I lived.
Not at my road.
Anyway, it is a category that obviously takes in asphalt and let's hope that he therefore keeps to the track limits. Reiners Nitzis, who is I think the only Latvian driver in the entry, but that's the treble 8 car, the AC Motorsport Audi RS3.
Lydden Hill, of course, is where Rallycross started. April 1968. No, that's not right. 1967, 4th of February 1967. So we're coming up to a big anniversary.
We're past it, aren't we?
Past it, yes, of course, because we're in 18 now. Fantastic.
I keep making that mistake.
Lydden Hill between Dover and Canterbury, and I have worked there, and I did a Rallycross meeting there live for TV, and I was Diana Binks couldn't do it one time, and so I was Diana and went and did the standing in front of the camera and trying not to get knocked over by cars bit. It was fabulous.
Both of the Ginettas who had times disallowed have now done times which are legal and have countered, and so we have a Ginetta 1-2 again with James May in the 278 CWS car and Charlie Hollings now bringing the 232 car back into the pits, but their times then are 2 minutes 9.039 for James May and a 2 minutes 9.333 for Charlie Hollings in the car number 232. and those two then first and second ahead of the 888 car of, Vincent Rademacher, who did the time now in the hands of Reinis Nittis.
Who says you can't drift a front-wheel drive car? The 216 Seat TCR, at the moment, the Modena Motorsports car, sitting in fourth position with Matthias Besch just absolutely throwing it through 5, 6, 7, and then balancing the car through 8 and 9, the carousel. He's on the long back straight now. He gets out his e-reader and has a bit of a read before he brakes at the end. Fabulous bit of car control as the back end stepped out. In fact, the only 3 Hancocks, Johnny, in contact for most of the run through 3, 4, 5 and 6. Tremendous stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the way we want to see touring cars raced around here, isn't it?
What is it that
most on 3 wheels.
What is it that Martin Haven says? Rear wheels on touring cars, only there to keep the exhaust from dragging on the ground.
Yeah, well, it's a fair point. And tucked in behind is another TCR car, although that's actually a cup car, strictly speaking, but the Peugeot 308 Racing Cup car permitted into the TCR category. Worldwide, indeed, it is technically a TCR car along with a Racing Cup car. Now, machine being pushed down the pit lane, and I don't think that's just moving it away from a penalty box, for instance, down towards the team.
They don't seem to be rushing about it, do they, Johnny?
They don't. I was trying to work out how far.
I think that car's in the next session, actually.
Ah, okay, that would make sense. It looked almost like a Porsche rear wing. I have to say I couldn't see all of the car, just the rear wing and the gentlemen propelling it. So Julian Griffin in the ATEC DXB Seat Leon with a bit of pace to try and find. This is the 8th placed TCR car. SP3 though leading the way at the moment in terms of pace, 2 Ginetta G55s.
In fact, there's a third one in 5th position with Bradley Liebenberg for CWS, the second of the CWS cars, the 178. That's the normal CWS, if you see what I mean. We've got Adam Hayes jumping in with Père et Fils, May, Père and Fils, who we normally see campaigning that very lovely Porsche. That car still on its way back, I presume, from Texas. Costs being kept down by sea travel. And
class at the moment is number 131, the Hoffer Racing, powered by Bonk, and that's being driven by Michael Schrei, who was the...
because the 127 car, too badly damaged in... well, no, this was the test session rather than even free practice, wasn't it?
Correct, it was the optional private testing session on Wednesday.
Yes, I never did get to see how badly damaged the Audi was, but
Joe
Paul
saw it. It was all round the front end of that Bonk Audi.
Joe got photographs of it, and
front left corner.
Yeah,
is what he's mimed to me. I
think it connected with another car.
It was the barrier.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, very barrier.
At the wheel of the Century Motorsport Ginetta. So it's now Ginetta 123. Century 229. John Barnes leads the way. 2 minutes 8.951 his lap time. That's just 100th of a second quicker than John did during the free practice session earlier today. So he's pretty consistent. Oh, he's gone even quicker though. 2 minutes 7 now, 0.871 for John Barnes in the Century Ginetta. Adam Hayes is now in the 278 car that was being driven by James May, but Adam has taken it over. James May doing the quickest time for that car in the end of 2 minutes 9.039 after the various disqualified lap times. And William Moore is at the wheel of the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta now. He's taken that car over from Charlie Hollings. Now in the free practice session this morning, William Moore was actually quicker than Charlie Hollings, so we'll see whether or not William Moore is going to be able to...
Is that Willie? Is that Willie Moore?
Not the Willie Moore.
Not their Willie Moore. He used to drive a Porsche and the Nürburgring and all of that. Drove with Marino a couple of times.
No.
That's another William
right.
Moore. There's 3 William Moores in that case.
Right.
He's known as Wilmore, by the way. It's a bit like Jonathan Adam.
Right,
I
okay.
call him William. So
right, so we'll call him Wilmore, and that'll remove any confusion with any other Moores.
John Barnes now behind the wheel of the car that sits on top of the timing screen. Let's go down to Andrew. I hadn't forgotten about you, Andrew.
Yeah, John Barnes is a name we haven't seen at top of the timing screens for a few years, but wind your clock back about 12 or 13 years, and John Barnes was absolutely the man to beat in Caterhams. He was the fastest person I've ever seen in a Caterham, and then I think, if I remember right, he had a season in Formula Palmer Audi, which I think he might have won, or certainly might have done the Winter Series, something like that. But nice to see John Barnes back in a competitive car and going well.
Andrew Marriott down in the pit lane as the time ticks away to under 15.5 minutes time, and the Ginetta dives into the pit lane. Adam Hayes has just gone out in the CWS number 278. Vincent Rademacher heading out again in the AC Motorsport Audi RS3 LMS. Now, all of the top three are SP3s. They're all Ginetta G55s, 229, 278, 232, separated, though, by 1.4 seconds. A 207.8 from that 229 car. That's not hanging about. That's very good. That's, I think, faster than we saw in their own practice session earlier on, Paul.
Yes, it was. That's right. John Barnes' fastest time, a 2 minutes 8.9. So to get it down to a 2 minutes 7.8, he certainly has found a very good lap. And the thing with that car as well, this is a Century Motorsport car. The other drivers of that car, Dominic Paul, Mark Farmer and Nathan Freak, none of them are slouchers, and that car, I think, will be driven very consistently by all four of its drivers across the board there. So that gap of more than a second now separating John Barnes' time from the next two Ginettas. Then we've got a bit of a mix-up with the TCR cars in 4th, 5th and 6th places, because we've got Vincent Rademacher's Audi ahead of Matthias Besch with the Modern Motorsport Seat. And Matthias, although he's second quickest in the TCR class, has already gone quicker than he went in the free practice session this morning. So he's certainly been pushing on as fast as he can. And then John Carverne, another, I won't call him a refugee, but someone else who's come out of higher categories of racing. He is in 3rd place with the Liqui Moly VW Golf TCR car. But the three of them in TCR separated by 0.334 of a second, so nothing really to separate those three cars.
Yeah, Audi, Seat, Volkswagen, Seat, Audi, Seat, Audi, and then the 308 Racing Cup car. Not really the same. Guillaume Roman actually pushing that Team Ultron Peugeot very well indeed, that 308 car. The 171 Johnson Consulting RCZ, very nimble little car, leading its class at the moment, and that is the A2 category. Couple of Renault Clio cars, Harold Rettich and Frank Bird in the fueling at the moment. Let's go down and hear from Nathan Freak, identified by Paul Truswell and Johnny Palmer as part of a very capable team. Bruce is down there now.
15 minutes of qualifying remaining, Nathan, and your car is top of the pile. Great laps put in there by John Barnes, but, you know, not blowing your trumpet, but you've got a very, very strong quartet of drivers in the car, haven't you?
Yeah, we have, yeah, very much so. I mean, John's obviously just done a fantastic job. Stellar lap, I believe, probably the fastest lap of a Ginetta around here before. And Mark and Dominic have, you know, both proven themselves to be very worthy competitors. It always feels a little bit disjointed at the start of these weekends because you have 4 drivers who are trying to get track time, but often it's only 3, 4, 5 lap stints each. So we've really focused on giving Mark and Dominic the lion's share today to try and get them up to speed, see the bigger picture. This is my 3rd year now, so I know what the car does, I know which way the track goes, and I think it's starting to pay dividends a little bit for us.
Yeah, their overalls still have Aston Martin logos on the back, don't they? They've changed over from last year's racing. We have, of course, this time the split qualifying session with the Touring Car Endurance Series. We're having split race, effectively, tomorrow, but all together. But separated the qualifying, you think it's a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a little bit of limbo with that, I suppose, because technically we're a GT4 car. But we're not classified as a GT car this weekend. Before the weekend came, we decided which class we were going to do, and we really couldn't. It was a tough one for us, but because we've done SP3 the last 2 years, we decided that was the right call for us. What it's effectively done is made us the fastest car in our class now, so that's quite nice to have P1 on the car when you're going around in qualifying, being outright fastest. And for sure, the qualifying was a lot quieter this year and able to get some clear laps, which is also good. don't know how it will pan out tomorrow, we'll see, but you know, maybe next year we'll be on the GT4 side of it, who knows.
Nathan, thanks for explaining it. Thanks very much.
Nathan Freak down in the pit lane with Bruce Jones, and the 229 has still got that number 1, although it's sitting in the pits at the moment. Adam Hayes is the man trying to take that away as Vincent Rademacher has propelled the Audi RS3, the TCR car, up to second place, the 888 numbered car from AC Motorsport, and he is now within 1.1 seconds. Adam Hayes on a good lap at the moment as he heads down the back straight, Johnny.
Yeah, the 278 car, which is the James and Paul May car, by the way, so I'm sure it probably has got some patisserie Valerie detailing on there, but it's not in the full livery that we've become used to on the Porsche. That's definitely a Colin White Services liveried car, the black with the turquoise detailing on it. A couple of those cars due to be here. Yes, CWS Engineering being driven now by Bradley Liedenberg. That car is 5th, but the Adam Hayes one, the 278, is 3rd.
Up into second place then, as I mentioned, for Vincent Rademacher, a 209.003 in that 888 red, white and black Audi, and Andrew has more on that car.
Yeah, what to add on that? Remember Vincent Rademacher racing a Volvo in the British Touring Car Championship in 1999, and of course the following year he was in a Vauxhall, so he was a front runner in the British Touring Car Championship. But way back in 1994, Vincent finished 2nd in the British Formula 3 Championship to Jan Magnussen. Gareth Rees was 3rd, and Dario Franchitti was 4th that year in that championship, and also racing against Rademacher in the 1994 British Formula 3 Championship was Zach Brown, Christian Horner and Mark Genet. So that was a stellar year, but Rademacher is a class act. He might be 50 now, but he's still fast.
Means he'd get downgraded to a bronze driver shortly. He'd be really worth some money. That back in the day when British F3, Paul, was a must-do. It had to be on the CV of any single-seater driver coming up.
That's right, and of course in those days as well, it wasn't impossible to see drivers going straight from British Formula 3 into Formula 1, into Grand Prix racing. Vincent never actually got there, but had a feeling, I mean, Vincent was a star before he got to Formula 3, because Johnny's just looking up his record now, but from memory, he had a very successful Formula Ford career before he even stepped into the British Formula 3 Championship.
Yeah, very, very experienced driver. Good interview as well. I remember him in his touring car days when we started off Talker Radio, I suppose a precursor to what we're doing now. I certainly ran alongside the Radio Le Mans service that we were doing back in those days. Johnny?
Started off in the Benelux Formula Ford Championship. That was in the mid-80s, but then moved to the UK in 1992. Drove in the British Formula Ford Championship, finished 4th in the points at the end of that year. And that was the start of his single-seater career.
Yeah, he had a successful run in the Formula Ford Festival as well, I think, in '92. It's one of those that he didn't win the Formula Ford Festival, but I have a feeling he was at least in the running for a podium position or something. John?
Giannetta's 1st and 2nd again as the CWS freight train rolls on. Bradley Liebenberg has brought the number 178 car into 2nd position with a 2087. That's the black, mostly black of the CWS cars, with that teal colouring along the side. It's almost Leighton House Miami blue, the detailing on that car, isn't it? Which is always one of my favourite colours of racing cars. And also Darren Turner's as well, the Aston Martin Works driver, fashioned his helmet colours after that Leighton House Miami blue colour. Down towards the heavy braking area for the 178 at the end of the back straight now. Turning right-handed, don't have to use all the exit there. Straighten the car up and then get yourself set up for the left-hander at turn 11. Quite a steep climb, deceptive, up to turn 12. Tricky, double apex. Make a nice late turn in. You can help the turn in there with the hill, but then you crest the hill and you've got to be very careful on throttle application on the exit as you dive down towards the kink at 13 and then into 14, which is the left-handed hairpin right in front of us. You can take a huge amount of speed into there, lots of time to be made. Just let it breathe in the centre of the corner. It is a double apex, and if you can get yourself into the second apex properly, the car's nice and straight when you pop out over the brow. If you don't, you'll see people losing the back end there as the car unloads at the back, and we have seen people in the past there, Johnny, just coming over the brow before the turn 15, actually spearing off to driver's left, which when you see those accidents, you think, how's he got all the way over there? But he gets the tank slapper on and spears across to the left. That's not unusual here.
We'll have to catch up with Bradley Liebenberg across the weekend, because this could well be his first ever car race. A massive background in karting, but he's only 18, from Johannesburg, and will have a birthday in a couple of weeks, actually. So nearing the end of his teens. But whether he approached Colin White or Colin did put some feelers out to get these young South Africans into his team, I'm not sure. But Jack Constable, who's raced in the British Ginetta Championship with Colin, both from the AM element of that. You've got pros, you've got AMs in the Ginetta Super Cup these days. So Jack and Colin from that, and Bradley Liebenberg could be a real talent. 5 minutes to go. It was a good year for South African drivers last year, with Sheldon van der Linde doing very nicely indeed in GT racing, and he's racing with his brother Kelvin at Daytona at the end of the month. Another race you can follow live on the Radio Show Limited network of channels. That'll be on RS2 IMSA Radio. Extended coverage across the whole week with a special midweek motorsport from our IMSA Broadcast Centre on Wednesday, overlooking the Speedway, and then Continental Tyre, as well as the IMSA WeatherTech Championship for the full 24 hours, and the fate of those lovely Rolex Daytona watches. Watches to be won here as well, of course. The BMW chronograph, the BRM chronographs, excuse me. And the BRM chronographs trophies going to the winners of 2 different championships that are contesting the Hankook 24 Hours of Dubai this weekend. This is the TCE for touring cars and the slightly slower of the GT classes.
And a further improvement there for the CWS Ginetta, number 178. This is the, sorry, 178, I should put the emphasis on the 1, because the it's the number 178, which is the Patisserie Valerie liveried car. Bradley Liebenberg has just cut that gap. Remember, it was, he's got it down. It's 2 minutes 08.605 now, puts him just 0.7 of a second behind the John Barnes time. John has brought his car into the pits meanwhile, and with still 3 minutes of this session remaining, I do get the impression that the track is really quietened down a little bit, and if you do have a car that's on a good set of tyres, now might be the time to go out and set a quick time, because it's not busy out there, John.
What's the regs for tyres? Can you throw as many tyres as you want at this qualifying session?
As you can afford, absolutely.
Right, okay. 232 just going back out again. That's Will Moore for Optimum Motorsports G55 Ginetta, and he's warming the front Hankooks up as he heads through the final corner and across the line. He's still moving left and right. This is his outlap. He might get one more.
He will get one more.
He'll have to get a bit of a wiggle on, won't he?
Yeah, provided he doesn't go at very slow speeds, and he seems to be speeding himself up a bit now.
Down through turn 1, front end of the grey and fluorescent lime green Ginetta, diving as he was on the brakes there in the difficult braking area. Downhill braking area is always difficult to pick your braking area. Uphill braking areas, gravity helps you slow down. Into the flick-flack and through turn 5, 6, run 6 and 7 almost together. You sort of have to get the first bit right to get the second. There's so many places around here, Johnny, where it's a combination of corners.
Yes, it is, and I suppose if you get one wrong, then that scuppers your chance of getting a good run through the oval handling course of the lap, if you like, with 3, 4, 5 and 6 all thrown at you in quick succession. But the Leeds-based Will Moore heading now down this long straight between turns 9 and 10. He'll get this lap and probably one more, should he wish, for the 232, the Dayglow black and grey colours of this machine, which is run by Optimum Motorsport. So Of the top 5, 4 of them are Ginetta G55s, the only interloper being the AC Motorsport Audi RS3, which is parked up in pit lane now after Vincent Rademacher did a splendid job to, by the looks of things, take pole position in the TCR division.
The whole field has been out there and set lap times now, with the one exception of that Bonk Motorsport car number 127. Everybody else has set very reasonable lap times, no problems for any of them, which is always a good thing. The whole point of qualifying really is just to decide what order you're going to line up in. What you don't want to do is to go chasing setup changes on the car just to set a lap time over one single lap. You've got a 24-hour race ahead of you that you're supposed to be preparing for, and it can prove a tempting dessert to go off and try and set something in qualifying, and you haven't got to go there.
26 seconds left as the 178 Bradley Liebenberg driven CWS engineering car, currently in second, goes across the line. Nah, he's lifted out. He's lifted out of it. I don't think he's going for it. No, he's not leaning on that car as he goes through turn number 4. By the way, the tracker is incredibly accurate, isn't it? When you look at what's happening out on the circuit. We'll get the pole sitters as soon as everyone has gone across the line. At the moment, it looks like an SP3 car is going to take the overall pole in the TCE category.
Cracking effort from Will Moore, though, with an absolute best through Sector 2, and puts his car up to 3rd fastest.
He hasn't seen the checkered flag yet.
No, because he was going down the main straight with 2.5 minutes on the clock, and he's done a 2:08.7, so he can squeeze one more out of it. But 43.1, still pushing reasonably hard. John Barnes did a 42.5 through the first sector, so that's already 0.6 of a second off. I wouldn't be surprised if Will Moore thinks that's enough as well. But we'll watch his progress on this final lap, should he wish to use it.
So, pole sitting interviews to come. As it stands at the moment, the 171 Johnson Consulting Peugeot is on pole for A2. A1, Cup 1 rather, is the 131 Hoffer powered M235.
Should mention actually that Will Moore was a winner here last year in the SP3 and the GT4 part of the race. He was racing with Adrian Barwick, Stuart Lynn and Irishman Daniel O'Brien. But Will Moore has good pedigree here at the Dubai 24 Hours. 178 coming through then, driven by Bradley Liebenberg, and hardly surprising to see that car peel off into pit lane. Young Bradley had backed things off quite a bit.
I think Will Moore is going to stay out there.
Yes, he has.
Through the second sector as well, Johnny.
Well, no, that's the 3rd sector, absolute best, a 35.0, and he improves again, a 208.697. What it doesn't do is improve his position, though.
Well, overall it does, but not in SP3. Oh, no, he was already third.
Yes. He's done some 2 really quick laps, but 92 thousandths of a second of the CWS Engineering Ginetta, but that car, number 178, driven latterly by Bradley Liebenberg, will actually start on the front row for the TCE Series race alongside the 229 Century Motorsport Ginetta. And Will Moore, despite every effort, lost quite a bit of time in that opening segment then. 0.6 of a second shy he was of the John Barnes time. So William Moore, along with his crew at Optimum Motorsport, will start from 3rd position. And then the first non-SP3 car will be the TCR Audi RS3 of AC Motorsport.
Right, let's have a look at how they stand at the end of the TCE qualifying. It's a triumvirate of Yorkshire grit. 3 Ginettas, the 229, 178 and 232 from respectively Century, CWS and Optimum. 3 different Ginetta teams within 0.8 of a second of each other that lock out the first 3 positions of the TCE Championship for the first competition of 2018. AC Motorsport have the TCR pole in 4th position. And running down, it's a whole slew of TCR cars from positions 6 through to 10, all from the Volkswagen Audi group, or Volkswagen AG. with Seat, Volkswagen and Audi all represented there. Have to go a little further down to see our next pole sitter. That will be the Cup 1 class car, and that is an awful long way down. The Hoffa Racing machine down in 21st position, so behind Coheuser Racing's BMW M3. They were the first car that went out, if you remember, in the SP3 category. And McKay Snow doing some driving for Coheuser there. So 2 more pole sitters to tell you about. 21st position overall, the Hoffa Racing powered by Bonk Motorsport Cup 1 BMW 131 in 21st position, and the A2 class 28th, 29th and 30 Peugeot just have a slight advantage over the 2 Sicily Motorsport Renault Clios. Let's head to the pit lane and to Bruce Jones. Bruce not quite ready to speak to our pole sitters as the GT cars are beginning to get rolled out. The shadows are getting longer, and pretty much all of the pit lane now, Johnny, actually in shadow, with the building that we're in providing the cover from the evening sunshine.
Yeah, that'll be, I'm sure, a relief to the teams as well, because although they're not in fireproof overalls, you don't need to be at a Creventic promoted event because the fueling's done in an entirely separate location from the pit lane. But nevertheless, the high-vis jackets over clothing will generate a fair bit of heat, I'm sure, and it's just nice to take the edge off that 24, 25 degrees Celsius heat.
Right, let's start picking up the pole interviews. Here's Bruce Jones down in the pit lane.
Pole position, the SP class leading the touring car endurance grid. John Barnes, you make it hard for yourself. You've never driven the Ginetta before. You've never driven at Dubai Circuit. You made it look pretty easy.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, well, that's why we come and do this, isn't it? Because if you go and do something that's easy, it's not as much fun. So, yeah, good challenge this weekend. I hadn't been to the circuit and hadn't driven this Ginetta before either. So, but the car is mega. Really like it. It's just like a little go-kart. Such good fun to drive. And the circuit as well is brilliant. Absolutely love the circuit. I've obviously watched your coverage before and seen this race on TV, but when you actually get here, the circuit's absolutely brilliant. I love it. So really pleased with the time we did, and that was a great session.
Do you also find there's a fair bit more gradient than you see on TV? Because TV always flattens it, but there are some climbs here.
Yeah, it looks completely flat and a little bit lifeless on TV, I've got to be honest. But when you drive it, it's awesome. There's some really good camber around some of the corners, lots of undulation change, and yeah, like I say, I really like it. It's been good.
Well, great session. You're top of the grid for the touring car endurance. Runners, of course, the GT3 runners and the GT4s go out in the next session. Crowded track.
That's the fastest an SP3 class Ginetta has ever gone around this circuit, Paul.
No, absolutely, ever. And I think what we're going to see in a few moments' time when we get the GT series cars coming out for their qualifying session is more of the same, only with GT3s going faster than any GT3 car has ever gone around the Dubai Autodrome. So, yeah, I mean, the baby classes were spectacular enough. The TCE classes were spectacular enough. I think this is going to be even better.
So stand by your beds. No need to go anywhere. We've got the new for 2018 name of the championship. It's the Hankook 24H GT Series coming next. But first, let's remind you of the action from the TCE qualifying session for the 2018 Hankook 24 Hours of Dubai. So with the evening sunshine casting long shadows now over the pit lane here at the Dubai Autodrome, time to turn our attention to the GT categories and the Hankook 24-hour GT series, the first event of 2018. Johnny Palmer alongside me. First thing that we've got to say about this is it's going to be more difficult for these guys to put a time in, because in the past, in particular the GT3, the SP6 cars, those guys have been used to having the place to themselves, haven't they?
Yes, true. So it's going to be 60-odd cars all thrown at the track at once, and the question of whether you can find a little bit of a gap in the traffic here and there. So there's an element of luck along with pure pace. We may well find the odd car just easing back a little bit to generate that pocket of air, and hopefully they'll be able to then sustain it across the 5.5 kilometre circuit here at the Dubai Autodrome. But this promises to be a very, very busy session indeed. 30 cars out in the last one, and we are doubling that for the GT series. Promises to be a little bit louder out there as well, with the mixture of 6.2 litre Mercedes-Benz engines in the front of the AMGs. We've got the V10s from the Audis and Lamborghinis, 5.2 litre V10s, and then the traditional flat six from the various iteration and various version of Porsche, whether that be GT3 spec or the many cup cars that we've got in this category. Remember, the 991 class, which is for Porsche Cup cars, actually separated into two further divisions this year, Pro and Am. There are 3 991 Pro cars, there are 7 991 Am cars, but with everyone out on the track at once and only 45 minutes to try and set a time, certainly this could be high stakes. So cars just being released from their position on the pit lane apron. One of the early takers is an SP2 BMW parked at the front, the very end.
The GT Daytona class competes with production models that utilize the global FIA GT3 specification. With a Pro-Am driver combination, the GTD cars don't offer the same aerodynamics and power as the GTLM class, but have 450 horsepower and are capable of speeds of over 175 miles per hour.
GTLM class. Battling for dominance. Finesse. Style. Thrill. Speed. Ferrari. Porsche. BMW. Corvette. Ford. Racing at its finest.
The prototype class has an all-pro driver lineup and the fastest and most technologically advanced cars in North America, including the Daytona Prototype International, or DPI. Prototype cars have 450 to 600 horsepower and are capable of reaching speeds of over 200 miles per hour.
What's it like having a rallycross driver with you, Rinus Nittis?
Yeah, he's improving a lot because he did some laps during the qualifying between my two stints, and he's now up to the game, so he learned very quickly, and he looked at a lot of video and stuff like that in car camera, and he's improving all the time. So I think we have a good team of the four driver. I think are quad equal. So if we have yeah, it's always the same in 24 hours anyway. So no accident, no contact, and a free run. It will be very good at the end of the race.
Well, good luck for a clean run. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you very much.
Good to hear Vincent's voice again, and Bruce Jones doing the interview down there in the pit lane. You don't want to get rid of experience like that out of any sport, Johnny, do you? You know, those are the guys who need to stay in the sport and mentor potentially the people coming through.
Yeah, you know, experience counts for an awful lot, but that's the one great thing about motorsport, I suppose. A sports person's career in motor racing can be extended, well, in some cases into their early 70s. I think we've had drivers, if not older,
Yes.
and you know, you've got still the pace onto the right foot, and as long as reaction speeds haven't dropped too significantly, then why not continue your love of motor racing? It's existed probably from year dot, and great to have a name as recognisable as Vincent Rademacher still around, and not only offering his speed in the car, but also helping the youngsters come through as well.
You're listening to coverage live from trackside here at the Dubai Autodrome for the first round of the 24-hour series for GTs, the Hankook 24-hour GT series for 2018. Paul Trustwell, Johnny Palmer and me, John Hindhaugh, in the booth. Paul?
And I think all 45 minutes of this session are going to be worth watching, John. I don't think it's going to be necessarily right at the beginning that we see the quick times. I think what we saw, remember, during the free practice session this morning was right at the end of the session, Tyrone Blakemolen went out in the Black Falcon Mercedes and set the quickest time of that session. And with this kind of evening qualifying session, I think it's really going to be towards the end of the session when we see the times really being gone for, especially if the track starts to get quiet towards the end of the session.
Let's go down to Nick Damon, who's taking over from Chris Jones, who's with Chris Stadulu.
Mercedes driver, previous winner in Mercedes, on the 85 car, but you're sharing with three guys who've become the Porsche experts of the Creventic series.
Yeah, so no, it's been good. I'm racing with last year's, like you said, 991 champions from the Creventic Championship, and they've upgraded to the AMG GT3 for this year. So a bit of a tough task, obviously straight into the deep end. Dubai 24 Hours, the biggest Creventic race during the whole season. So we've got a lot to learn, and hey, it's been fun so far. The drivers are just getting to know the car and just exploring its possibilities and where its strengths are, and so just about to go out for qualifying, and we'll see how it goes.
Of course, you know this car very well, or the GT3 version, and you were driving it only last week, but in very different weather conditions and a very different circuit.
Definitely. So yeah, I was looking to be at Daytona last week before the 24. It was 2 degrees out, absolutely freezing. So it's nice to be somewhere a little bit warmer. Hopefully it's not too hot in the race, because of course with the higher temperatures it makes it a lot tougher on drivers, on tyres and on the cars. So hopefully during the race it'll be a nice consistent temperature. The night time's always fun here. Plenty of places to overtake, the track's very wide. And also it's a little bit easier on us as drivers as well in the evening as well.
Charlie Putnam's just taken the car out. What's the plan for qualifying? So I assume you'll get set of fresh tyres for chance to go for it later.
Yeah, so for qualifying, Johnny's starting, so we've been having laps this morning. We just ran out of time to get all the drivers through the car. So he's just going out for 10-15 minutes, and then we'll come in. We should be low on the fuel at that point. Put the new tyres on, and off we go and see what she's got.
Who's got like,
The second qualifying session is for the second championship racing here. With you tweeting to us at RSL_studio. Why they split the field up the front of it. In the past, it's been split slightly differently in terms of, I suppose, Johnny, the performance, the potential performance of the cars. But broadly speaking, along the lines of touring cars, GTs, now it's between the TCE Championship, which we've just had, the 24-hour Hankook 24 TCE series, and the Hankook 24-hour GT series, splitting for the 2-0-1 early on. That's the electric blue. It looks actually quite a little darker blue in these evening conditions. KTM Crossboard. It's the CCS racing car. It's almost, if I could use an advertising analogy, it's almost Cadman's Daily darker blue, isn't it? It's all blue for us. Holden was always dark blue.
Down the road from me, so I'm a frequent visitor. It's well done. You get off the train at Onboard station, and literally the air is thick with that scent of chocolate. It's brilliant. yes, you're right. It is actually Caddy's pedal. He's now looking for the Super GT cars that have been times possible. We've seen that car and that livery for at least the last couple of years, the CCS Racing. And Serie doing the opening part of qualifying there. Christian Frankenhout, perhaps unsurprisingly, driving the Hoffa Racing Mercedes, but Indy Dolce, Dutch driver, drops the line now in car 25, set to 202.912, and is immediately better by the A6 Pro Tiptoe Racing Lamborghini of Hans Schmidt. Bit further back on the road, Christopher Mies over the line, and Christopher Haase. Now, Paul said we would get those two mixed up. It doesn't like similar speeds, and Mies and Haase together where the timing's great. Exactly. 201.4 for Mies, 201.6 for Christopher Haase in his Optimum Motorsport Audi. The changes of times at the top started to calm down a little bit now. Stuart Hall and Motors though to occupy provisional pole very well there in the session. A6 and GP Extreme Renault, and they're both now in A6 and GP Extreme Renault. Stuart Hall with a 201.039. That's the best of anyone. Well applied for it. No, it's not the 245 car. That is the 246. That's Peter Cox. I can't believe I said that. I apologise to Peter, but he did actually hold Stuart Hall up on the floor there. I think he got diving himself in more than doing anything deliberate. He got a time under 2 minutes, but I think that's going to be very far off before we do get into the 1 minute 59s. Confidently expect them down to the 1 minute 57s when it comes to pole position. Just looking down the list, I reckon all of the top 20 are capable of breaking that 2 minute barrier. Now, bear in mind that the 2 minute barrier was only broken at any point during the race meetings some, 5-6 years ago. 2013 was the year that we broke into the 1 minute 59s. The fact that we're going to have, as I suggest, that 20 times 20 cars and we're getting under the 2 minutes is a sign of progress indeed. And the track as well. I mean, you mentioned this earlier on, John, is in absolutely super condition. And it was interesting hearing from some of the drivers earlier on how much they're enjoying the track conditions.
Live from trackside, in sound and vision, Radio Show Limited network of channels. We're on RS1 this weekend. Take us with you if you don't have the bandwidth for television. Huge slide for the Lamborghini number 66. Okay, Attempto Racing. And that again through that little flick-flack of curves in the early part of the lap where the car is barely straight for a picosecond. Clement Schmidt in that Attempto Racing Huracan has got company behind him, and that's in the shape of the number 16. Welcome to the jungle. That is Dominic Baumann in the SPS Automotive car who's gained. My goodness, that Mercedes is quick down the back straight, isn't it?
Yeah, they're all being held back by an Audi though at the moment. A 157.362, so we're already deep into the 157s here. And Christopher Haase for Optimum Motorsport in his R8 LMS then. Actually managing to go quicker than Mercedes by almost 3/4 of a second. Dominic Baumann in that camouflage liveried Mercedes was second fastest, make that third fastest now as Jerome Blakemolen goes through in the Black Falcon Mercedes to do a 157.583. So that's come within 0.2 of a second now of the Haase for the Audi.
It's interesting that Jerome Blakemolen going out in that car from the word go, and in the earlier sessions he would only get in it towards the end. Whether that means that they're going to stay in it for about 45 minutes or they're going to swap drivers around remains to be seen. But Blakemolen, and that's a good time from the Black Falcon Mercedes, but at the moment all of those Mercedes having to play second fiddle to the Optimum Audi. place. That's the advantage of the Porsches thus far. Porsche, of course, a winner being the guy last year, John.
Yeah, Benjamin Martini, one of the regular drivers in the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East, and they do have rounds here, and they do lose the full circle as far as I remember. Certainly not quite what they did last season. Porsche has been improving impressively over the last couple of seasons in that championship. Clearly very confident indeed. That car that he is driving is a close relative to the Cup car. Not exactly the same. Oh, let me move the curves for the 964.
Turn 10.
But he's clear to the end of the lap now, Johnny. If I look up at CBR 315, he's down to 60, he's got a clear look in the final corner. Meantime, the number 3, Jerome Blakemore and Black Falcon in the dark red. You see, that's a great colour for that car. Almost, dare I say it, a Maserati style red in that dark sort of blue colour. It goes to provisional pole position at 57.2. It's going to be a low 56 for pole position here.
Low 56 or high 56, depending which way you look at it. You think the ones below 56s? I mean, certainly, I think it's a second. You think they're still a second? Well, I think it's true that the recent cars are remarkable the way they're going. And the mix is there as well. And it's not concerned that one manufacturer may have a particular advantage over another, but we've got the mix of Lamborghini, Audi, Mercedes, Renault is right up there as well. The Manthey Porsche moves up to be the best of the Porsches to 10th fastest. The Matteo Gianni, who does the time, 1:58.241. He is leading 12 cars underneath that 2-minute mark.
This is behind the wheel of the 963 GR2 Classer racing Lamborghini. He's heading into turn 6. The ball, huge sideways slides as he kicks it down in the second gear. Exits now through 7, heads to the parabolic corner, the carousel with the sun right in the eyes. That's the yellow of the two Lamborghinis, which are sort of gold colour almost. And he's heading down the back straight now. Rick Brokers, who will drive anything. He was at Daytona last week, and as well as Jerome Blakemore has to take back provisional pole position from Brokers for a moment. We have GR2 Classer Racing Team first and second, and it's a 57.1 now for Jerome Blakemore and Black Falcon Mercedes-Benz number 2. Only ever been a German mark who has won this race, and Blakemore was on a cracking lap and came upon a 67 Porsche, which has held him up in the early part of the lap, and immediately that lap's gone.
What's great about this gun as well is the fact that Anthony tyres are lasting more than just a single corner. We've seen this in the past where there's only been a couple of laps in the tyre, whereas Blakemore is now on his third flying lap, and this one may not be moving, so you may well lose that a little bit. Push again, and you may then have a fourth flying lap.
That was Phil Clough, by the way, inadvertently getting the real figures just out of the pits and trying to get some heated and Heineken tyres in the race. Pro Motorsport Porsche. Still half an hour to go here, Johnny. This is by no means all over.
Still time to find as well. It's really fun to look at purple times appearing, sometimes outside of the top 15. Mirko Bortolotti clearly has had times deleted though, because the under 964 car dropping right back in the order, so he's got to do it all again. Presumably turn 12 has been done on, so turn 12 is the left-hand
exit, I would say, actually. It's really hard. You can get all through here.
She mentioned at the time that he was scrambling all over the curves, and I think this was going to be a bit bad. I don't think it was an avoidance of a slower car, it was just carrying the speed out of the bend. So Mirko Bortolotti going to try again for that earlier effort. Chris Mays behind him, and it's
27.1. So 3 cars within 0.2 of a second. Actually, 0.187 of a second for the pedant. And Romeo 777 against the R7 by WRT. Audi Lamborghini Huracan from GRT with 964 and number 3. Giovanni Mullen piloted, because they're fueling these cars around at the moment. Black Hawk and Mercedes-Benz. It's the second of the GRT cars. Rick Brightness has pitted, presumably for a new set of handcuffs and perhaps a top-up of racing fuel. Now in 4th position. And the top 4 is separated by 2 and 3 point tops.
Robert Renner in last year's winning, I would say it's a winning car, but it's a new car. It's the team, Motorsport, and that was last year. Robert Renner has only just exited the pits. He spent the first 15 minutes of this very fast section. Problems, don't know, but only just now has he come out onto the track to join in the fun. And I think it might not be a bad move, because if the tyres do only last, say, 5 or 6 laps, that he could basically go for it now and through to the end of the session. You have to know that coming in at some point for a new set of tyres. Interesting strategy again played by the Erlebt team.
Cars are so on the ground edge here. I've never seen them being driven like this before. Not sure what it is this year. Clearly, everyone's having a week of this morning. They are going at it.
They've been eating Weetabix all day, John. And so, today, the car is faster than ever before. It really is going to be, the race itself is going to be something to watch.
For Chris Mace, just curled the handcuffs for a moment, and now he's into that tricky first sector. And Johnny has got traffic ahead of him. It's the 62 Porsche that pulls out of the way, and that's Matt Campbell fresh out from the pits.
It's interesting that the 5 cars that have sat out this session so far, 2 of them have now decided, well, we've had enough of the pit lane. Things have possibly calmed down a bit from the frenetic start of the 45-minute session. It's now safe to join, so the auto technical car, really excited to see how the Aussie gets on this weekend, not only in qualifying but the race as well. Really good overall Supercup car for this year. And the 62 car then piloted by Australian with Robert Renner just ahead of him on the road. We're still waiting for 3 other cars though to join the session. The other Fat Auto Tech machine, 61, the RSR Motorsport Porsche and the MRS GT Racing Porsche. That's also now about to join the session with Alex Welch.
Perhaps surprisingly, 3 A6 Pros at the top, a couple of cars at the top, followed by 3 A6 Am. Why is that surprising? I'll tell you in a moment after we've heard from Nick Taylor down in the pits.
And just as you said, guys, what has happened is there's been a massive flurry in the first 12 minutes, and now Seb will be able to show you that a great number of cars who are now playing sit and wait. They've often left their fastest driver on, they've put on new tyres, they've sat on the apron, sometimes with low drag pattern. One example is the 5 round car that's just pulled away with 16 below his side, so Tomaso won't be happy so far. They've got a new set of tyres, and they're waiting for a car now. Looks like they're going to do it. Finding track space. Some cars are waiting on. The first flush is gone. My guess is we'll get another flow probably until this time.
Seeing earlier about the slight surprise from my point of view that it's A6 Pro cars, but of course the kind of assuming, of course it's A6 Pro cars. They've got the Pro drivers, but actually A6 Am cars have got Pro drivers as well. And in fact A6 Pro drivers have got Am drivers as well. And fewer Pro drivers, in fact only 1 allowed in the A6 Am category. But the advantage that the A6 Am cars have got is that they are lighter than minimum weight actually. They set up a standard lighter performance and the Pro cars get 3 kilos more. So yes, they are lighter, but basically the standard BOP weight. I thought that we might have seen 1 or 2 of the Pro drivers in the Am cars just making a bit of hay there and trying to embarrass the Pro category cars. It's not happened as yet. As yet. Yes, thank you, Paul. Still time for that as Chris Grace continues to circulate. He's at the end of the long straight, seeing the eyes as it comes through turn 10, heads towards the front of the 11. Very quickly indeed. Now four parts of the circuit as Meese peels into pit lane.
Yeah, so again, it's a more difficult session, you could argue, than the previous one, because the sun is falling now towards the horizon. You've made the point already that once the sun really does start to dip, sunset itself is actually very quick, and we plunge into darkness at 5:48, I think, local time here.
At least with the sun, the windscreens should be fairly clear at the moment.
Yes.
What is worse is when you have a dirty windscreen and then you have the sun on it, because then all of a sudden, instead of being a windscreen, it looks a bit more translucent and harder to see through. But as I say, with the qualifying, at least it's a relatively clean windscreen that you're looking through.
We will have some coverage of the night practice tonight when we'll go through a little more of the information. This is a bit fast and furious at the moment, but Corey Marvin asking any rules and regulation changes for 2018. Yes, quite a few. The only one that you need to worry yourself about at the moment, Corey, is that the bracket times, the minimum lap times, have been done away with for A6 AM. So drive it as fast as you can. The balance of performance between A6 Pro and AM being achieved with different weights of the car, which I've mentioned, but more importantly, by different makeup of the experience of the team. You aren't allowed as many pro drivers in an AM car, which kind of makes sense, but you've still got to have AM drivers in the pro car, and also, Paul, the amount of time that your respective drivers are allowed to do in the race.
The driving time regulations, exactly. I think, as I say, there's too much going on at the track to discuss it in detail. What I would recommend that Corey does is to have a look at the 24H Series website. I know you maybe want to shy away from the tab that says regulations, because it's all going to be too complicated, but Creventic has put together a great little summary. It's only about 6 or 7 pages of what are the great summary of 6 or 7 pages.
That's longer than the Can-Am whole regs book were.
Yeah,
that was 1 page.
But the point being that the key changes for this year are nicely summarised in that single document, and you don't necessarily have to wade through lots and lots of pages of regulation. I think the whole regulations run to about 150 pages for Creventic now.
Which obviously you read front to back to front, up and down, and memorised on the plane on the way over.
Tried to, but I won't say that I didn't miss something.
That's why I like printed regulations. Can't be doing with things that you've got to read on a
scroll up and down.
Yes, I want to go through pages.
Yes.
Out on the circuit, back out again. Jerome Blakemolen with a new set of handcuffs. He's been in and out of the fuel station, and that beautiful dark red Block Falcon Mercedes-Benz GT3 car running in A6. Third position at the moment, back out on the track.
I don't think we mentioned Mirko Bertolotti putting his Lamborghini back where it should be. Did we say that?
Yes,
we did.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, I was...
I got quite excited by that, actually.
Yeah, so it was, as I say, it was being put back to where it should have been before it had that time disallowed earlier on.
Yes, good point. We have still got 22 minutes in this one and only qualifying session for the Hankook 24-hour GT Series, part of the 24 Hours of Japan for 2018. It's very well, and John Hindhoff in the booth, overlooking the track, which is now pretty much all in shade in terms of the track surface. Down in the pit lane, Nick David. We'll get back to him in a moment. Herbert Motorsport 911, Robert Renard not being out that long. His third lap netted him a 157.339, good enough for 6th position, third in A6 AM.
And fastest Porsche as well, which is always something to just checking back to Bortolotti's time, that's actually now a quicker time than he had disallowed as well, so we can be satisfied with that and picking himself up even more of the track than we really experienced earlier on. But the time that he's working with now is quicker than the time that he disallowed.
At the moment, of course, we have qualifying records time sitting at the top of 157.011. These will be the fastest GT3 cars, A6 cars that we've seen on a single lap around this circuit. I still think there's a bit more to come. I just wonder if somebody might want to try and slide out. I'm sure there's one or two drivers whose teams will be watching the track at the moment, Johnny, expected to be your car, is it? Tangerine, isn't it? Sort of a double nose effect for the car. And behind the Williams, that is Friedhofer, who's just left midfield as well, which I'm sure he could do. He's just given 11 back. We had 13 over the last game. We had 14. He's warming up quite vigorously behind good tyres, having just come out of the pits, coming down the line at 16 on the corner. Eases right off. He's come in the pits. He has come in the pits. He's just making sure he gets a good lead on the final corner to start a flying lap, and there was much room as he could in front of himself without compromising his exit too much. Goes under the pits now. Distinctive signature headlights on the Audi R8, all squirming into turn one as the back tries to overtake the front and gets on the bar. Very, very well indeed. Hancock scrambling for grip through the King at turn two, already through three, heading towards this very technical section. 4, 5, 6 and 7 come as quick as you can see them. Has to try and keep the car on the circuit through the exit of 6, hasn't been easy to do that. As through goes the 6 forward, Michael Portolotti takes the professional pole position of 56.7, and there's still more to come. I promise you. Portolotti now has almost 8 tenths of a second. That's a huge lead in the context of what we've been watching.
Just so I can continue to tell you, because we have deleted part 2 is going to have the time disallowed again because of running out wide from turn 12. So we've never had a non-German car win this race. Have we had a non-German car in pole position? That's the next question, because the Lamborghini Huracan is definitely not German.
The V8 Corvette, the V8 Racing Team Corvette.
Yes. It's taken a while for that car to actually appear in that garage. It wouldn't be even by 24 hours. As we look at the car in the 19th position with a 58.5. I'm going to say now, I reckon that's faster than that car when it was on pole position, and it's down in 19th place on the moment.
He said he couldn't really beat, what was it, 2013.
You said 20 cars under 2 minutes. You're wrong, because it's already 21. And in fact, we've got 21 cars under 159. And then a 2-minute lap from Shorthurst into the top 2 racing Philippa. So there's time yet for that to be added to that list to be added to. Bertolotti looks like he's going for a mega lap into turn 4 and 5. Right on the curve on the left-hand side and tries to get the Lamborghini slowed down as he pitches it into turn 6. Looking for the road, yes, nicely done as he exits 7. Uses the red and white curves with the left hand. Hancocks now setting the car up for this long left-hander. He stays low, the back end is moving around though. Oh, these drivers are loving this at the moment. They are feeling the cars moving around. Anyone who likes a car completely nailed to the tarmac at the moment is not going to be having. Anyone who doesn't mind a bit of drifting is loving it. Working out at the end of the back straight. He might just have lifted up a tiny little bit. Let's see if it's anything behind it. Is he trying to make a little gap for the next lap? What's his split times like? Not bad. 38.7. It's not his best, but that's faster than Robert Renard has just done. That was his 39 was the fastest for him. Renard, by the way, at the 6th position in that Herbert Motorsport number 9 and 11, the car that won this race here last year.
And that was that Renard time, just 2 flying laps.
Yeah.
He went out, he did a
special.
He did a 157.3 and then followed it up with a 157.4, and then he called it a day, came into the pits.
Johnny's on a very odd mission at the moment.
No, just to work at Bortolotti's from Trento in Italy, northern Italy, not far from Milan. I was just wondering how far it was to get from its place to Monza, because it's
well, if you had to walk it, it's 41 hours.
Okay,
apparently.
well that's useful to know. I'll change that setting.
Call it what, 200 kilometres?
221 kilometres.
Okay.
On the fastest routes. He's in the pit lane.
Yeah, so just seen out of the pits has gone Jeroen Blekemolen, so it's not over yet, John, and as you say, I'm sure there is more to come in these, just over 10 minutes remaining.
Thanks to Josh Barrett, along with Chevy, Ferrari and Lamborghini have been on pole at Dubai. So 3 non-German manufacturers that have been on pole, none have converted that into a camel ride and the top step of the podium.
And again, I still think it's important to have strength in numbers at this place.
Agreed.
And there are only 3 Lamborghini GT3 cars here this year, 3 Super Trofeo machines that are in SPX, but it's likely to be an A6 car, whether that be a Pro or an AM, that takes overall victory in the GT Series element of this race.
Joe Bradley is down in the pit lane and has been watching Bernd Schneider in an uncustomary, unfamiliar 15th position. He's just gone back to the fuel area, Joe. What's Bernd, what's the legendary Schneider been asking for from the team? Hello, Joe.
Sorry there, John, I can't hear you. Yeah, the 25 came in, that's the distinct Mercedes of the HDP Sport team, car 25, came in, he's took wing off. He was in a very, very swiftly, and it's a very easy adjustment on the back of that Mercedes, but he's taken wing off. He's chasing straight line speed on that long back straight, and also it's worth the very sleek aerodynamics on the front straight as well, the pit straight.
We've had a Le Mans overall winner out qualifying as well in the A6 Pro category for D-Station Racing. Sechiara won with Audi Team Goal.
Yes, in 2005.
He's in 25th position at the moment.
Only the second Japanese driver to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's, yeah, it's quite fascinating. Something of the reputation of this race is quality drivers, top flight drivers do turn out to take part in it. Christian Reese is back out on the circuit. Having been into the pits, has now gone out to get a bit more fuel and will be out again shortly. So Santos defence won the last 10 minutes.
Yes. It took some of the Porsche 998 World Cup cars a while to get out there. Phil Crayford among them, but now the Race Pro Motorsport machine under his direction is in 30th position. Top of the pile as far as 991 is concerned, with a very creditable Cup car time of 2:01.690, just ahead of the Back Motor Technical 61, and then the Race Union in 187 on the 2:02. So that's the category. SPX at the moment has the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo of Lightning Motorsport. Ollie Webb has done the time there. The number 10 car is 24th overall and leads SPX with 2 minutes. The Cup car of Christophe Bouchou, another big injury, 205.231, leads the SPT category. And GT4, Phoenix Racing. And best of the GT forecast, just ahead of the Beza Group Racing, Sebastian Ash, Mercedes-Benz, and then the team racing by 100, Roberto Fontana, qualifying the 84 car, separated by all of 2/10 the top 3 in the GT4 category. In fact, you can add on to that the second of the Phoenix Racing cars with Martin putting in the pits there, and he's on a 2:95, so there's 3/10 between the top 5 or 6 of the GT4 class winners. That is going to go on
Theoretical lap time column on our time screen is always a fascinating one to look at on occasion, and the Mirko Bortolotti capable of 156.703 according to the theoretical lap time. He's got running close to that, the actual time of 156.716, but can't seem to break that 56.7 right now. No one can. Giroux's just done the best Sector 2 time of anybody. It's a PB3 Sector 1 as well. And the final sector takes cars just over half a minute, so we don't have to wait too long for the number 3 car to arrive on the main start and finish line. He's got a clear track ahead of him, and Jewett back across the line any moment now. Will it be better? Yes, it is a better time. It takes him to the provisional front row. A 156.751 then for the Dutchman, and that is only 35 thousandths of a second slower than Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini Huracan.
Temperature just dropping a little bit as the sun goes down. It's plenty of the tallest building in the world lit up like as if it was a huge knitting needle pointing into the sky. Fabulous time of the evening, and still a very clear night here. No dust or sand in the air to worry about getting between your hand-cut tyre rubber and the asphalt surface of the Dubai Autodrome. Blake and Mullen in that dark red car with the red LED strip underneath the traditional oval Mercedes-Benz grille. Even the Mercedes three-pointed star is colour keyed on that car, such as the attention to detail. Down the turn one lap from Blake and Mullen. Is he on another quick lap? Manage to 5.035 a second. Do you know what? Giroux will work exactly where that time is to be found. What he got his fingers did was to do a slight cooling off lap on his second lap, and then try and make his third lap a quick one. Christopher Nice is now up at miles, and he's just gone out and done. He did a as a setting lap. I think that's a good for Nice. But he won the Black Falcons on that Mercedes number 2 has improved on by significant to him. The other thing was obviously changing in the sort of 156.927. 3 cars now under 157. I'm going to say now, I think I was a little bit too hopeful. I don't think we're going to get a low 56, but we might get down to a mid 56, back into the pits for Jerome Blake and straight in, and a slide early on. So that tells you how my brain's calibrated still.
The two Mercedes, 3 and 5, are going to be very tricky to take apart. That was Toronto Kelly in the early part of the right, but the 3's just coming up against that roster of that's what you do. It was only 5, meaning that was Tom Onslow Cole. That wasn't Jerome Blake and Mullen. 2 cars are very similar.
Have they got a red strip on the bottom as well? Or even the strip more black on them? The red one, well, if you look closely at it, it's kind of a metallic red. So that means you can't kind of see them when you see like the doors out of the way.
They were doing so many rounds and sunset.
It's a good looking car around. It's okay. One of the very few cars going to be the race with just 3 drivers. And that it can work. It can keep the drivers focused. But if any of them goes for anything else during the race, then there's no insurance policy at all.
Yeah, Tom and his team are doing almost back with penalty for being gold drivers, which they are in the 2018 FIA gradings, so that will make them both pros in the Creventic drivers, and Emma Vos, the Dutch businessman, is a bronze, so 2 pros and then a driver.
Scored a good German, original pole for SPX. And Nicholas got Ollie Webb with it. Isn't it?
So every time you come back to Dubai, you remember how crazy this track is with this many classes, and having done 3 years in the A6 cars and 3 years in this now, it's a nice mix. It's hard because we could go a straight line, but it's so far we've pole, and I think there's only a couple of minutes left, and we've done it by a second and a half. It'd be nice to go 59, but 2 minutes left, we're really happy with. Speed-wise, it's always in GDLs. There's 3 or 4 Lambos, but speed-wise in a straight line, we're really strong. A lot less aero than the A6 cars, so he's trying to find which like, if Bernd, for instance, is in a Merc and he's on his qualifying lap, or is he on his out lap, and then you can get away with overtaking him. You want to make sure that you don't finish. I mean, last year I think we were top 15 in first and second class. But it's not. It totally depends on other people's misfortune. It's never wish upon. So top 20 overall in first in class. First place is always the highest possible. So that's what we're aiming for. Thank you.
Provisional call for Montclair. The moment in 24th position. Super Trofeo in SPX. These days are Touring Speed 065. The next best SPX SPX guys, the GDL Racing Team Asia machine, 201.5. So that was a special lap for Black Falcon car currently third fastest. It's not down to the final 2 minutes now to the break out again. Yes, the half just completed that first lap of Norman. He's throwing around that green number 2. He's into turn 6 and coming through 7. Sparks flying from the underside. It's actually starting to get a little bit dark now. This is more than twilight. This could be the time. This could be the time. Now, the number 60 has ground to a halt right on the entrance to the pit lane. Can he get it restarted? Yes, he can. He's in the pit lane entrance. It's Christophe Bouchou, Paulsitter, provisional Paulsitter. Yellow flag at 2:15. Paulsitter is 2. That American car with the Ford straight 5 engine. He's off the track now. There's no need. There's no need. Half of everybody coming into the pit lane. He's actually in the pit lane. He's got the door open. You can almost roll down the hill from there because there is a bit of an impact on that. You've got to blow the wheels on. I think he's going to understand the motor just to get it rolling. It's a great piece of heads-up driving by Christophe Bouchou. He's really trying to display the back part of the circuit, and that will make it very difficult indeed for anybody justifying an improved lap time, which just what Lewis has just done. And get the 56.6, come on, another couple of tenths. Red flags at 15. Session will not be resumed. There's 43 seconds to go, and Bouchou's car has brought a premature end to the session. Oh, now, will the Mies team, will Christopher's time be allowed to start?
Sure. It was very well timed, John. It wasn't mistimed at all. It was very good. Well timed. And as say, provided that it's all allowed, then that will stand as a pole position time, but set just have to check precisely to see whether...
Did he improve in Sector 3? That's your question, because if he didn't improve in Sector 3, it's a fastest time
of everybody. It was a purple time
in
Sector 3 to do the 156.6. That was the thing that struck me.
And now, having walked away from the car, he walks back, and Christophe Bouchou, it fires, and the Stroke 5 fires up immediately. That little twin turbo, 2.5 litre Ford engine has pushed the SP2 Paul Sitter, and he is the SP2 Paul Sitter, ahead of the KTM Crossbow and the Speed Lover Porsche. That's Peter Cox and Carlos Rivas, respectively. Well, the 777 team are celebrating. Nick Damon is down there, and this is going to be one for the stewards, Nick, but we'll presume that this time's going to stand. Nick? 777 coming through to the end of the lap. 156.615, not quite a time. Sorry, Nick, not hearing you at the moment. If you're hearing me, getting nothing from you at all, Nick, on either of our channels. So we'll go back to Nick in just a moment.
But Mohammed bin Saud Al Saud's love of the number 7 certainly shows a lot of love at the moment. Yes, we can hear you now, Nick.
Nick, go ahead with our provisional pole sitter, Chris Mace.
That was with our Dries Vantori's teammates. Dries, do you think that time's going to stand?
Well, I hope so. Of course, the car was standing still, but he was moving as well. I don't know exactly what he was trying to do or was planning to do, but I don't really see it as a yellow flag. He was
trying to get there, and it was not a permanent yellow flag. I mean, it was not a standing yellow flag. It was not yellow flag for the whole time. On the screen, it was going off and on and going off and on. But of course, really happy. It was a last lap action, but yeah, of course, really happy. The car was already running well the whole weekend already. So yeah, Audi and WT. Hopefully, if it stays like this, Audi and WT did a great job again.
I say, I noticed that Chris seemed pretty chuffed about it.
Yeah, well, we have to wait and see how he is, but of course he will be happy. Of course, it's still a long race, it's 24 hours, so anything can happen, but for the moment, we're all really happy.
Brilliant, thanks, Dries.
Dries Venter with Nick Damon in the pole sitting. Chris Meese, MS7 by WRT, with a new qualifying lap record, 156.615, the fastest GT lap we've ever seen around the full Grand Prix configuration of the Dubai Autodrome, just on a 10th of a second ahead of Mirko Bortolotti. What a fight that was between the two similar engined cars, mid-engine V10, Grasso Racing Team, and Mirko Bortolotti put up a good fight. Another, well, nothing at all, 0.035 of a second behind. I mean, literally the blink of an eye. The top four within 0.2 of a second. Jerome Blakenmolen, Jelmer Berman, hunting as a pack for Black Falcon. Tend to be a solitary hunting bird normally, but they were in wing formation there. So it was Audi, Lamborghini, Mercedes at the top of the standings, and the top five all A6 Pro cars, then a slew of A6 AM, led by the Renault RS01. Nicky Pastorelli got hooked up well in the middle part of that qualifying session for GP Extreme, a 157.2. Rick Breukers for the GRT Grasso Racing Lamborghini, the second car, next up in 7th, and the top 10 made up by Porsche, number 911, Hoffa Racing, Christian Frankenhout in the number 9, and Christopher Haase for Optimum Motorsport in 10th position. As we look further down, it's all A6 Pro and AM cars, and look at that, the top 15 within a second. And if we go down to the next page as well, Paul's prediction that we'd have 20 cars within 2 minutes, we had 23 cars down to the number 66 in 23rd position, under the 2-minute barrier. Leipert Motorsport were the best of the SPX category. We heard from Ollie Webb with Nick a little bit earlier on. And let's run through quickly the rest of the standings and pick up the other pole sitters in class. Fat Auto Tech, Philip Fromweiler in the 991 AM category. In 991 Pro, where did that car go? I'll pick that up for you later. SP2 was the Lamera Cup car of Christophe Bouchou in 41st position. 991 Pro, I found it was Klaus Bachler in the Race Pro Motorsport car, but that was, I think, Phil Quaiffe's time that did that. Besser Group Racing make up the top 50, and then beyond them, everybody getting out. There's another 10 that put times in, and they look rather like this. In 51st position, Norberto Fontana for Team Race Scout by Winwood. So the GT4 pole sitter was Philip Ellis in 49th position. Behind them were Besser Group Racing and Team Race Scout by Winwood. 60 cars setting a lap, but the man who set the fastest one, and a new fastest lap ever for GT3 in A6 Pro around the Dubai Autodrome, that's Christopher Meese for MS7 by WRT, 150.
Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. The hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time, merely an abstraction.
The GT Daytona class competes with production models that utilize the global FIA GT3 specification. With a Pro-Am driver combination, the GTD cars don't offer the same aerodynamics and power as the GTLM class, but have 450 horsepower and are capable of speeds of over 175 miles per hour.
GTLM class. Battling for dominance. Finesse. Style. Thrill. Speed. Ferrari. Porsche. BMW. Corvette. Ford. Racing at its finest.
The prototype class has an all-pro driver lineup and the fastest and most technologically advanced cars in North America, including the Daytona Prototype International, or DPI. Prototype cars have 450 to 600 horsepower and are capable of reaching speeds of over 200 miles per hour.